I truly hate this camera. Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, connected an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are in the description below this video. And if you would like a scully, a pyramid, a piece of artwork, pretty necklace, oracle card readings, you can check out my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com. That's just my shirt. Yeah, you can see all my fun stuff. It's just a portfolio. So if you want to get anything from me, please email me. Personal Survival, the Curtis books, because who doesn't love them? We're going to go into spiritual contracts. This should be very fun. Before I do, the last couple of days have been amazing, but also rough. A lot of being pulled out of I'm being grabbed to be the one that's a helper for a lot of people. Yesterday, I became a great auntie to kittens that were born yesterday with JQ and Dina. I had to help them in a big situation, so I didn't get to do a video yesterday. I do apologize. I'm dealing with Viking and a lot of other situationals that have been taking me away from my work. So I'm here today. As much as I am excited to help other people, nobody pays my bills. So, coffee, it's early. Very early. And yes, I have my hair in a bun. It's one of those days. Spiritual contracts. It should be remembered that we are spirits now as much as we ever will be, no matter how little of that spirit we manifest through the body of flesh. In our relatively short sojourn on the earth, being an individualized ray of God, the spiritual self naturally contains a threefold expression of the Trinity. The rays of this threefold cord of expression contact the body through three principal centers. The self-conscious or rational ray contacts the body through the pineal gland. The spiritual, intuitional, or life ray, which makes contact through the heart, where the life force enters the blood. The subconscious or instinctive ray makes contact through the solar plexus, belly button area. These three rays manifest as three aspects of the one mind, and these aspects are termed the self-conscious or rational mind, the superconscious or intuitional mind, and the subconscious or an instinctive mind. We use only a small portion of the consciousness we possess, superconsciousness and self-consciousness or subconsciousness. No matter what the stress or strain of everyday duties around us, the main object in life is the establishment, growth, and expansion of the spiritual self. For it is this self that lives on through eternity. To accomplish this, we must keep the self under the rays, which nourish it, and remember that however exalted and devoted your aims may be, they have no real existence or life until you give them expression by sharing them with others in thought, word, and deed. Protected doors. The bodies of the centers where the soul contacts the body are covered with a protective web of etheric matter which prevents the forces from passing out through them into the higher worlds until they have been opened normally or abnormally. When the solar plexus web is opened, the consciousness can pass into the lower astral, leaving the body in a state of astral trance. This is cause of trance mediumship. For in the absence of the owner's consciousness, other disembodied entities can manifest through the entrance and otherwise empty organism. But no one need fear such influences, as they can find expression only through those of like negative condition or of mind, of those who open their minds or auras to the evil influence of such entities through giving way to selfish, negative, destructive thoughts and emotions. Therefore, if for no other reason than this, we all should be constantly on guard against giving away to anger, envy, jealousy, or lustful temptations, lest be swept away into the great currents of such destructive forces in the astral world, as will invade us like whirlwinds and sweep us far beyond anything we have intended or imagined possible. In other words, the so-called psychic senses are not spiritual powers, but the functioning of our 5 physical senses in the astral world. Their reports naturally vary with the degree of their training, just as the reports of our physical sight and hearing depend on accuracy upon their training. When the web protecting the brain center is opened, the consciousness is allowed to pass out partially into the higher astral and mental worlds, which produces the conditions of clairaudience, clairvoyance, and clairsentience. The ability of the consciousness, thus to soar to the higher worlds, when carried to its highest degree, allows it to ascend above even the mental worlds into the higher spiritual worlds. In a condition of ecstasy or inspirational trance called samadhi, in the condition divine spiritual realities and ultimate God conscious are experienced. Withdrawal of rays. In reverse order, at the time of death, the rays are withdrawn from their respective centers. To this, they are exceptions, under which conditions the 2 higher rays are withdrawn without causing death of the body, as the life ray is left still functioning. When the life ray is withdrawn, the other 2 rays must necessarily cease their activities, as naturally the organism cannot function without life forces are withdrawn. According to the degree to which the self-conscious ray is withdrawn, it leaves the body in a state of semi-consciousness, sleep, or trance, with the other 2 rays still functioning. Sorry, guys. What a day. Second childhood. These details give us a clue, but it's clue. Weird word, to the phenomenon called second childhood. For when the object of life has been accomplished, as the spiritual self withdraws, it leaves the body still living as before, but under the control only of the subconscious mind. This continues to function largely as a result of habit or routine, dominated by the strongest impression made on the mind. These are usually impressions of experiences gained in childhood or adolescence. Hence, these strongly marked events of childhood are often clearly remembered and referred to as a recent date, while those of later date, which made little distinct impression, are often forgotten. Because these earlier childhood impressions now dominate, and because there is little resonating power left, the condition is called second childhood. Human animals. The withdrawal of the self-conscious ray leaves behind only a semi-intelligent human animal with symptoms of more or less feeble mindedness. If its training has been constructive and happy, this animal self will be as easy to care for as any kindly disposed, well-trained animal. But if the personality has been untrained, selfish, willful, and inharmonious with the spiritual self, has withdrawn its control, there is left behind only a very unruly, irritable, selfish, and ill-disposed human animal to take care of. Under such conditions, this should be recognized, and such a person should not be expected to live up to his former standards of conduct, but should be given the kind of thoughtful care that would be given to any aging pet animal. Usually such cases can be better cared for in some well-organized home for the aged, where they are often happier and more contented after the adjustment is made. Soulless human. When the spiritual ray is withdrawn, it naturally leaves behind only a soulless human animal, without conscious or heart qualities, with no spiritual overshadowing to control its animal propensities. The object of life having been obtained as far as possible in this incarnation, there remains nothing to be desired on earth by the spiritual self. So it loses interest in the physical body and therefore no longer attached and attracted to it. It then turns its attention inward and withdraws from the physical, leaving behind the soulless human animal. Also, when the human personality persistently refuses to respond to the influences of the spiritual self, and so fails to develop the spiritual qualities of love, compassion, and tenderness, it naturally degenerates, for the spiritual cord which attaches it to the spiritual self shrivels and becomes atrophied from lack of use. This ultimately cuts the personality off from the spiritual source and leaves it soulless human animal, although still retaining its mentality and its degree of intelligence. There's an important distinction both in quality and degree between these type of soulless human, and that of those experiencing second childhood. In the first instance, second childhood is due to the conscious withdrawal of the spiritual self or soul, while in the case of the degenerates, it is due not to a withdrawal of the soul, but to the degeneration of the tie connecting the personality with the soul. This does not constitute a lost soul, for the soul, being immortal, cannot be lost. It withdraws into the heaven worlds, there to remain until it can gather the materials necessary to build up a new human personality in which to reincarnate. What is lost is the personality, since it is cut off from the spiritual source. Yeah. Pause. As much as I do agree with that, there's a lot of perplexities that I don't want to lose people with. Source. So no matter what, we don't have to necessarily worry. I don't know why people are like obsessed with NPCs, background people. And I know that Dolores Cannon talks about this a lot in some of her books, but I just want to source, the whole smackdown. So as long as you get that entire smackdown, we'll be okay. I hope. Hang on. Lost personalities. These lost personalities may have sufficient spiritual emanations embedded in their finer bodies and in their permanent atoms to cause them to reincarnate one or more times, but each time in a more and more degenerate human form until the stage of imbecility and complete idiocy is reached. Upon the death of such a one, the atoms of its various bodies disintegrate and return to the elements whence they came, but the intelligent soulless beings often degenerate into Jack the Rippers, Dillingers, and other monsters of crime who can commit the greatest atrocities without a twinge of conscience, remorse, or regret for their crimes. No doubt there are many such soulless beings among the NIZIS and Japanese who inflicted such bestial and sadistic tortures on captured prisoners. They are not capable of regret for their crimes because there is no soul present with its forces of love and compassion to bring forth such regret. Pause. As much as we like to look at a history book to tell us and dictate to us who's soulless and who isn't, and the beings that make up these subcategories of groups of tribes of people, a lot of books and a lot of history has to be rewritten. So as much as there is a bias to a lot of people with misinformation, that they didn't know, they were only hearing what facts they were hearing at that time of when they wrote this back in the early 1900s. A lot of people who have no empathy, no remorse, might have souls. They're just so traumatized and damaged. We have to give compassion regardless to any one of these beings, as we contracted to have these experiences, and so did they. Sad as that can be. Upon the death of such soulless degenerates, since death does not change their character, they still retain their evil nature and bestial desires. They thus have an evil influence on all the mortal minds, which are all affinitized to such tendencies. Thus they become as near as we conceive of as being disincarnate devils. So, two schools of thought here. We create thought forms. We create the demons. That's what they feed off of, is the loosh. So if you are in a hostile environment constantly and you're not transmuting the energy to positivity, you can create PK manifestations and entities that will then feed and pluck life force from other people who have anger issues and substance abuses. And these things can start jumping into the bodies and hijacking them. In the astral world, it's the same concept, but they actually start materializing for us to see. This is where our demons come from. So we got to be very careful when we are working in any realm of doing divination, doing any kind of clearing work, that you are always protecting your energy body, your whole entire physical body, and making sure that you know what you're doing when you're doing the work. If you're not sure, don't do it. Ouija boards are a gateway. There are a lot of things that can open up to these entities, and they take a lot of little sneakiness, little Lokis around there that will shape shift into something that looks beautiful and is all ever present in the light, but they're dark. This also comes into account with the beings that are on higher densities we call aliens. A lot of them are service to self, and they will jump in, look like they are positive when in fact they're negative. We've been deceived as a humanity for a very long time, and it's up to us to break that barrier of understanding and the illusions that are being created to have a higher multidimensionality of our brain, our self, our mind, and all of our rays in order to distinguish what is actual good and evil that we're interacting with. A lot of things can become the devils, but those are catalysts, those people, those souls, those experiences are there to help us grow and learn from. Don't be afraid. Psychic influences. Since at first we carry with us the conditions under which we pass out until we have been purged from them or outgrown them, ordinarily, when we return to our friends on earth, we naturally bring with us those conditions as we have explained in the realms of the living dead. It should therefore be understood as a fundamental law of the astral world that without special training, no person in the astral can come close enough to contact the aura of his friends on earth without unconsciously and automatically bringing with them, imposing on the party, the physical, astral, mental conditions from which he suffered or experienced as he left the body at death. This is why you need to protect and shield your aura, your body, your auric field, your toroidal field, and not invite these things to you. This explains why many sensitive persons soon develop the symptoms of malaise, with which a deceased loved one passed out. Such persons suffer just as acutely as those they really had a physical disease, yet our careful physical examination reveals all the vital organs in a normal condition. These cases are often diagnosed as imagination or neurosis, or even hysteria or insanity by the family physicians who are not familiar with the results of psychic research or the laws of occultism. Such patients are simply suffering from astral conditions unwittingly thrown over them by deceased loved ones who are trying to gain recognition, and the stronger tie between them, the greater the influence, the greater the reaction. This frequently ceases or is cured when the source is recognized. If it is not ended, its effects should be stopped by repeatedly challenging the departed one and demanding that he withdraw from the aura of the suffering one and remain outside it in the future, since physical conditions, if allowed to continue, may act reflectively and set up actual diseases in physical form. That's why a lot of sensitives have a lot of autoimmune diseases. And unknowingly, as children, a lot of us acquire those things because we're not aware of how to protect ourselves from psychic attacks or just attachments of our loved ones who are not meaning any harm, but can impart some diseases on us. It's taken a long time for a lot of people to figure that out. So do the work. We'll see how much I agree with this one. The suicide case. A few cases from our medical practice will further illustrate this law. One patient complained that she frequently felt a compelling influence to commit with a razor when she was in the bathroom. She had spent large sums of money in many months of treatment by psychologists and psychiatrists who had endeavored to trace events of her early life back to childhood in an effort to find some fright, frustration, or other emotional cause which might have produced that impulse, but without result. Our first question gave us the clue. When asked whether anyone in her family had done that act with such implement, she replied that her husband had done so with the blade of his safety in the bathroom about a year before. When we pointed out to her and to him, who was there in spirit, that in his efforts to contact her, he unwittingly threw over her the desperate state of mind which had compelled him to do that act. We asked him to sit outside her aura in the future and try to communicate with her through telepathy only. After this explanation, while the patient often sensed his presence, she had no further impulse to do that act. So that is a very perfect example of when someone does pass away and they want to connect, sometimes they rub off their energy onto you. I know many of the videos that I do, sometimes spirit comes and I'm about to cry and I get a very overwhelmed feeling, or I get very hot. That's my dad. That's how he comes to me, but he knows not to sit in my auric field only because of what he passed away from, but he's already come and healed and come to terms with what he had disease-wise, which was scleroderma. And it was very painful for him. And he knows not to impart that on me because I already have my own shit. But that's just that's a really good example. And I'm sorry, I can't say certain words to trigger things. Drinking case. While lecturing in Topeka, Kansas, we were consulted by a mother concerning the condition of her son, a young man in the middle 20s. About every 3 or 4 months, he would have drinking spells lasting from a day or two to a week or more until he was completely exhausted. After each spell, he would bitterly repent, sign and pledge and vow that he would never touch liquor again, saying that he hated it and it made him sick, but that he could not resist the impulse to drink. Our psychic investigation revealed that the fact that his deceased grandfather, who had been a hard-drinking Southern colonel, was the cause of his condition. He said he was trying to teach the boy to carry his liquor like a gentleman. The boy, however, was too sensitive to stand the strain. While we explained to the grandfather that his influence was ruining both the boy's health and his character, he promised to stay outside of his aura and not to induce him to drink again. Reports from the mother a year later showed that there had been no further drinking sprees. We have cured a number of similar cases of periodic drinking by the same methods. London case. After one of our lectures in the Great Queen's Hall, London, a well-to-do woman came to us for help. She said that she had everything in life she wanted: wealth, good family, social position, abundance of handsome clothes, motor car, town and country house. Her difficulty was that often when she approached the River Thames, she felt a wild impulse to jump and drown herself. When asked whether she knew anybody who had thus drowned in the Thames, she replied that her father had drowned himself there some time before. We explained the situation to her and her father, who had been attracted to her by our inquiry. He said that he had no idea he was throwing over her his impulse to drown when he tried to draw close to her with love and affection, and he promised not to do so again. Some months later, she reported that she was still completely free of the impulse and can now visit the Thames with complete freedom. So all of us have these abilities to recognize once you are aware of how a person passed, and it's your family. It's people that want to make sure you know that they're still here. They're just not in physical form. And sometimes when you're newly within the last like 10 years of a person's passing, they're just learning just as much as you. They're just next level learning, right? We're all moving up. We're all expanding consciously, and they do the same. They're just not in a physical vehicle. It takes time for them to learn these lessons, and that they want to come visit and watch. And they if you love them and you want them there, you can totally ask them to be there. Just be aware that when you're feeling things of that nature, to say, hey, please step back. I don't mind you here. Just don't step into my field. And if you want to show me a sign, do it from afar. You know, like something falling off the refrigerator, a song on the radio, you know, or if they can project a good feeling for you, great. But you can talk to them. I talk to my parents all the time. And they know when to ease off on my energy field, because I don't need to cry all the time that they come. And that's just high frequency hitting my field. So just be mindful, especially those of you who are sensitive, to talk. Whether it be friends, whether it be a good situation or a bad, if yours out of nowhere getting some thoughts that are not necessarily you and not a part of your character or your personality, and all of a sudden you have a swap, a change, a switch, a thought that isn't really healthy, really investigate where that comes from. I didn't understand why I cry until someone put that bridge together for me. Like, yeah, your dad's always with you. Don't, you know, I know you could feel his hand once in a while, but he's the one that make you cry because that was the last thing you guys did together. So you can always ask him to like let go, like let up a little bit with his frequency, and he will honor that because he loves you. He's watching you, he's protecting you. But if it becomes too much, just ask him. He's here right now. Let go, Dad. He's laughing. But yeah. Moving on, war case. During World War I, a mother asked us for help about the condition of her daughter, who she thought might be losing her mind. The trouble was that the girl suddenly developed a fear of the dark. She was especially too frightened to go to sleep without a light in the room. She had been examined by psychiatrists and psychoanalysts without receiving any relief from her terror, and her mother had turned to us in desperation. Our examination revealed the fact that the girl's fiance had recently been killed in the war, and it was shortly after that time that her attacks of fear began. When asked to explain exactly what took place, she said that as soon as she turned out the light and got into bed, she felt as though some terrible object was slowly rolling toward her, and that if it struck her, she would be blown to bits. Further investigation revealed the fact that while her fiancé lay wounded in a shell crater, an enemy shell rolled down the slope and exploded as it struck him, blowing his body to bits. As soon as he recovered from the shock in the astral, he naturally sought out his sweetheart, but strangely enough, not to comfort her, but to urge her to marry his chum, whom she well knew, so that he might incarnate through them as their child. Of course, he had no idea that he was throwing over her all the tragic incidents of his death. When she explained to both of them that was what he was doing, all the terror of the dark disappeared, and a few months later, the chum and she were married, and within a year, a baby boy was born to them. That happens a lot. That's how a lot of us incarnate here and keep in the tribe. How crazy is that? Pretty crazy. I'm going to read the next chapter. Death Understood. To prepare to understand the cessation of the manifestation of our life on earth, we must have a clear understanding of the universal and inevitable experience commonly called death. This experience is dreaded because the untrained mind fears the unknown and the unfamiliar. Recently, in the light of clearer knowledge and better understanding through scientific research, this dissolution of the physical, that the soul may progress, is believed to be one of the fundamental methods of progress along the path. Death, when not due to accident, taking oneself, or war, is a voluntary withdrawal of the life ray under the direction of the spiritual self. It is simply stepping outside from or outside of one's house of the body into the outdoors of greater light and freedom. Even if there is sometimes a little confusion and strangeness at the change of abode, at first, it need be only temporary and momentarily. Doors or exit. There are 3 doors of exit through which the soul may be released at the time of death. The general tendency of one's life, that on which one has focused his attention, and the degree of focusing determine the door of exit. In the case of animals, children, or adults whose attention is largely focused on physical, and this includes the thinking in unintelligent masses, the door of exit is through the solar plexus. For the mass of kindly disposed and unselfish people, among whom we find the well-meaning good citizens, the compassionate, philanthropic, workers for the good of others, for all those folks whose heart qualities predominate the exit is made through the door in the region of the heart. In the case of the mental types and the more spiritually evolved types, the exit is made more or less consciously through the fontanelles of the top of the head. Pause. And I can only attest to my mother. I wasn't there to see my dad pass in person, but I actually crossed my mother over and she left through the heart. I physically saw her soul leave her body like 45 minutes before her physical death happened. That was hard because she did not want to leave. She was very stuck on making sure that I was okay. And she didn't really understand like what I was trying to explain to her like a few weeks before, like it's okay if you go, like it's gonna be time soon. And I didn't want to freak her out anymore, so I didn't really talk too much, but I walked her verbally out loud in the hospital, in the emergency room, when she did pass away. I made sure that she was going to go the other side without question and without worry. And I know I called down everybody and she came through the heart, which is really nice. Crazy though. In the case of the mental types, someone like me and most of the people that are listening to me who are more spiritually evolved, we'd be leaving from up here. Just fun times. Some occult teachers advocate not merely drifting to sleep, but practicing consciously withdrawing through the top of the head, for this will facilitate the conscious withdrawal at death. When this ability has been developed, we will be able to withdraw at death in full consciousness. Stepping outside oneself actually means the practice of making one's own, in imagination, the conditions of the hour of death. Excuse me. Supposing the day came for the great adventure of departing hence, one is apt to take this tremendous step quite suddenly. What is it going to be like? Why turn our imagination away from it? Why not entertain ourselves with the buoyancy of anticipation? Some teachers claim that as the soul approaches the withdrawal of life and consciousness, it has a preview of the time and place of death, and it is prepared for it and able to predict it. It is said that a dim orange light in the room during the passing facilitates the desirable withdrawing through the top of the head. Apparently, this method of exit was known to the priesthood of many lands down through the ages. From the earliest times, the Hindus pictured man with the cap of an inverted lotus blossom of 1,000 petals, with the stalk extending from the top of the head up into the higher worlds. This illustrates how the spiritual self sends down its rays of personality and enters the body through the top of the head. There it blooms for a few short years and then returns to its heavenly home over the same route. Archaeologists exploring the Mimbres Valley in New Mexico in 1929 found over 400 mummies of primitive Indians, estimated to be about 1400, years old. The head of each was covered with an earthen bowl, which had a small hole drilled into the bottom, so it would come directly over the top of the head. Through this hole, the spirit of the departed was supposed to ascend into the heaven world. The almost universal recognition of the method of exit down through the ages is widely separated parts of the earth is good evidence that it is a fact in nature which is commonly recognized. These details explain why there are conflicts in the reports of observers as to through which door the exit is made. All three types of observers may be correct, as they have been reporting exits through the different centers. The passing. From many authentic sources comes the blessed word that the actual passing over, the moment of transition, can be a delightful, easy, and happy experience. We quote from some eminent writers who feel that from all the descriptions given by authorities who are in position to know whereof they speak, death is a beautiful thing over which there should be no grief, no bitterness, no mar. The experience of one who is passing. Only friends should be around who understand and who are calm and loving. Spirit friends have already come to attend this higher birth. Often they bring garments white and glistening. When the eminent William Hunter lay dying, he is quoted as saying, "If I had the strength enough to hold a pen, I would write how easy and delightful it is to die." A Universalist minister, the Reverend J.W. Bailey, the day before he passed over, began to sing and would sing for hours, saying that it did not tire him to sing, and that he was so happy that he could not help it. He turned his eyes upward, and oh, how glorious they looked. They seemed illumined with heavenly light. He opened his eyes and smiling upon his wife and said, "I have seen over the river. It is beautiful on this side, but oh, glorious, glorious on the other." He then said, "Do not grieve," waved his hand and passed on. When Mrs. Pinkerton, a medium of some note and a spiritualist lecturer, was passing into death, she exclaimed, "This is a glorious doctrine to die by friends. This is the best day of my life. I hear the angels singing. I am happy, happy, happy. Doubt no more. I am there. Is a blessed, glorious, eternal life. The voyage is pleasant." And from Spirit World, we have the following messages. "Now I am quite successfully dead. It wasn't much of an operation after all. It was a pleasurable releasing, quite different from the death agony idea that should be looked upon as merely the birth pangs of the spiritual body. I feel like a tramp stealing a ride under a car and suddenly asked into a Pullman. Wonderful to be a part, even a little part of anything that moves on with such majesty, power, and beauty. There is no bump or jar. We keep right on just as we have been going. You shut up your old house and move into a new habitation. There is no sudden jump, which will transfer you. You take over what you are. The following is a vivid description of a passing over. I discovered by certain whispers, which it was supposed I was unable to hear, and from certain glances of commiseration, which was supposed I was unable to see, that I was near death. Presently, my mind began to dwell not only on the happiness which was to come, but on that which I was actually enjoying. I saw long forgotten forms, playmates, companions of my youth and my old age, who one and all smiled upon me. They did not smile with any compassion that I felt I no longer needed, but was the sort of kindness which is exchanged by people who are equally happy. I saw my mother, father, and sisters. They did not speak, yet they communicated to me their unaltered and unalterable affection. At all, sorry. At about the same time when they appeared, I made an effort to realize my bodily situation. That is, I endeavored to connect my soul with my body, which I lay on the bed in my house. The endeavor failed. I was dead. Conduct of friends. As we have stated elsewhere, and we would like to be empathetic about it, we should say farewell to our loved ones with no more grief than would be natural if they were starting on a long journey to another country and were intending to stay for a long time. We shall see them again and will be in communication with them if we desire. Instead of spending time in force in useless grief and mourning, the time should be spent in quiet meditation and in an effort to correlate our consciousness with theirs and assure them of our love and understanding. Mourning clothes should not be worn, nor should constant visits be paid to the grave, for all such acts and thoughts tend to hold the departed down to the discarded body through the law of attraction. The recently deceased is often strongly attached to the discarded physical body and for some time hence haunts its burial place. But it is thus held only as a result of thought or desire, the desire to see what becomes of the former outer garment it wore while on earth. Therefore, cremation is always desirable because it consumes the physical magnetism and this releases the deceased at once from the source of attraction to the physical world. Great care should be taken to see that either burial or cremation is not carried out until the astral body has had time to withdraw completely from the physical body or considerable suffering may result. I don't agree with that. The attending physician should not sign the death certificate, nor the undertaker be called until there is absolute surety that the soul has really left the body. Peace and quiet should prevail in the death chamber, and there should be no hysterical beseeching of the loved one to return. This often brings him back for a few minutes, only to have to go through the process of dying all over again. Seen and understood in the light of present inspiration and spiritual revelations, there is no death, no real death. There is only transition, a changing of form and state, only the renunciation of the physical body for a lighter, freer, and less unwieldy one. It is a dissolution of time and space. It is living in another atmosphere with our own self-same consciousness as we had while we were on earth, but with a clearer vision and a wider understanding. It holds no terrors for those who will learn. So death should be a quiet loosening of the magnetic bonds which holds us to the body and letting go of the strong earth desires for further life on earth. The more one clings to earth, the greater the futile struggle against the inevitable transition. And so, as one writer puts it, death, which is only the shedding of the outer envelope, in no way affects the immortal man. It is not a sponge which cleans the slate in a moment, but a sleeve that, while separating the chaff from the wheat, purifies the soul. Not a moral chemist that so manipulates character as perfect in the twinkling of an eye. And yet death, or conditions to which death introduces the individual, offers better and higher facilities for perpetual progress. A lot of this information is in the Realms of the Living Dead. I read that book already. It's in the playlist of the Curtis books. Very interesting and eye-opening. There is no fearing if you are multidimensionally conscious and aware in a raised consciousness aspect. If you can only picture your other selves and the bodies and the other vehicles that you are currently housed in, You are an infinitude of energy. You're conscious in this body and vehicle right now. That's all. It's just a transition. And I've seen this multiple times where I have somebody close to me pass away and people are like, they can't get over someone's death, and it's pulling that energy from that soul that just departed. It really does keep them here. You have to learn how to detach your emotions. Yeah, there is mourning and it does suck. But when you celebrate life and you celebrate that person for what they are and know that they're not gone, they just transformed into energy that you can call upon consciously at any moment in time, and they will be there. You might not perceive it, see it, or register the signs that they're trying to show you, but have faith. All is source. So I'm going to leave it there. I know everybody has different kind of perceptions and interpretations of what death is, and everybody's interpretation and perception is different. I'm just speaking from what my experiences are, and I already lost a lot of people in my life. I didn't linger too long in the sadness when my parents passed away because I knew where they were going. Morgan Cat is going to pass away any day now. So I'm hoping if she's gonna make a grand exit, if it's on my birthday and her birthday, because we share the same birthday, as long as she is, I know she's gonna be human and it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, she's at that point. So, as sad as that makes me feel, because I've been with my best friend, my little animal companion, for a long time, it's going to be a beautiful transition for her because I'm going to make that possible. And that's what I try to strive for other people to do instead of being fearful and sad. And yeah, it's going to stink, and it's getting used to not having something material in your life, but you can always I can always adopt more animals and save and rescue animals. And I will integrate the aspect of my second density self that's in her into my body. I'll be more elevated. I'm excited. So I hope everybody got something really interesting, or, whatever you feel. I'm not completely in alignment with some of the things they said, but the majority of it, yeah, for sure. I'm cold and hot at the same time. It's like really nice outside, but it's not there just yet. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet to do so. I'm hoping, like, after my birthday, things kind of calm down because things have been absolutely batshit effing crazy. I come back home every morning and I'm like ready to do a video, and then like I get sidestepped into 5 million directions because people need me and I'm always that person to step in to help. But that takes me away from earning my life and my living and doing me. Because I still don't have a job yet, so I'm just scraping by right now, and it's very scary. Fun. So, sending you each love, light, compassion, grace, protection, and shielding energy. Please be safe, be seen. Please, if you are in anywhere that's in the weather is nice, go outside, go ground your energy, be one with nature. I know I hear the lawnmowers. The wood chipper was outside in front of my house. They took my branches and stuff that fell that I had to put out there. Yeah, fun times, but a lot of noise going on outside right now. Hopefully you're not hearing it. But until the next one, guys, please support, please like, share, subscribe, be safe, be singing, align. If you understand why I do this all the time, the 3 rays, connect to them, and do some quiet reflection this week. Energies are very high, and hopefully I can do a spiritual soul advice very soon about the energies happening. I'm still integrating a lot of energy, so we'll go through it. And until the next one, guys, bye for now.